So your PC is looking pretty bland and basic, but you want to make it feel unique with a new clean look. Well, I can help you with that, so stick around. The first step is cable management, as having clean cables draws more attention to the components rather than the rat's nest you may have residing inside your case. The easiest way to start is to unplug all cables and route them all towards the rear of the case through the closest rubber grommet or cutout. Starting with the smallest and thinnest cables first, such as front panel connectors and HD audio, route them through the closest cutout and plug them in while pulling any excess cable back towards the rear of the case. Use the thicker cables such as the 24-pin and PCI connectors to cover all the small cables as you route them. You don't have to tidy your cables around the back, as most cases have a solid side panel, so all you'll need to do is push them flat and cable tie the nearby cables together while using any cable tie points you may have dotted around the case to pull the cables out of the way. If you have a power supply basement, you should shove as many excess cables as possible in any free space, as this will keep them out of sight, meaning less management is required. If you want to make your cables a statement piece by either matching component colours or by getting rid of those ugly catch-up mustard cables, you can get cable extensions like these ones I have here from eBay for $35 for a full kit. They connect to the component end of your cables and are compatible with all power supplies, and a full kit will come with one 24-pin, one 8-pin EPS and two 6+2-pin PCI connectors. These extensions not only help to extend your cables for better routing options, especially for short 8-pin EPS connectors, but can also make the cables tie into your build nicely, as there are a few colour options available. A power supply shroud can really clean your build up by hiding unwanted cables under it, but some cases can have a boring looking one or none at all, so let's fix that next. For this Armageddon case, it has a power supply shroud, but it's nothing special, so I'm going to cover it with two acrylic panels, one for the top and one for the front. Measure from the motherboard tray to the front lip of the power supply shroud for the height measurement, and all the way to the radiator cutout for the length. For the front piece, measure all the way across from one side to the other for the length, and up to the same lip for the height. You can cut these pieces out of a larger sheet of 3mm thick acrylic yourself with an acrylic cutting knife, or find a supplier that will custom cut them for you, and most, if not all suppliers, will do this usually for free. As for the Matrix 55 case, I measured from the motherboard tray to the front edge of the case, and then measured from the bottom of the case straight up to the same edge, and added the two together for the height measurement, and all the way to the hard drive cage for the length. Draw a line across where the two height measurements meet to differentiate between them, as you will need to use a heat gun to bend this section of the acrylic 90 degrees to make the shroud. It's best if you tape the panel down on something with a 90-degree bend, like this bench here, so it doesn't move and you have an angle to try and match. Turn your heat gun to the hottest setting and hold it a few centimeters away while running it slowly up and down the line until the acrylic begins to soften, then begin applying a fair amount of pressure to start the bend. You'll have to heat the acrylic a couple of times to get the full bend done properly, but once you have it done, hold the bend for a minute or two until the acrylic cools enough that it won't spring back. The acrylic will stretch when you bend it, so you may have to trim it when you go to test fit. You can cut holes in the top piece using a scroll saw, Dremmel or Jigsaw for cables to pass through cleanly, or cut around obstructions in the case like these hard drive cage screws. Time to paint the shroud with a two-tone pattern by painting the underside of the panels your statement colour, then sticking vinyl stickers, which you can make your own or buy online, on the front side before painting over them with your base colour, and finally picking the vinyl sticker off to reveal the undercolour shining through with a silhouette outline of the design. I use Rustoleum spray paint, which is about 13 Aussie dollars a can, as they have a great colour selection. It's a primer and paint in one, and it adheres to plastic nicely. The best technique I have found is to do 3 to 4 light coats with about 10 to 15 minutes of dry time in between each, then leave it for 24 hours before painting the other side or peeling your stickers off. To install the top acrylic panel on the power supply shroud, I use the 3 VHB double-sided tape, also known as modder's tape. If your measurements are correct, your power supply cover should be a firm fit with minimal effort required to install it. The side panel of the Armageddon case only has a small window that doesn't show off the build in its entirety, so let's fix that next. Measure from the bottom lip of the case where the old side panel sits to the top lip for the height, and from the rear of the case to the front lip for the length, but add an extra 10 to 15mm to this measurement. Again, you will need a piece of 3mm thick acrylic this size, so either cut your own or get it from a supplier. At the rear edge of this sheet of acrylic, find the centre of the height and measure 30mm each way, then come in the 10 to 15mm you added extra and mark that beside each of your first marks. Draw a line from the bottom and top edges towards the closest 10 to 15mm in mark and then straight out to the back edge. You will need to cut these two sections out, leaving only the 60mm of excess as a lip or handle, like this. The next step is to measure in another 15mm on every corner, not including the lip, and make a border all the way around. Then trim the protective film to this border line, exposing the acrylic underneath. I like to cover my panel in painter's tape first as an added protective layer, but it's not necessary. Spray paint this border black, giving it 3 to 4 light coats also before leaving it to dry for 24 hours. Once dry, peel off the plastic protective layer to reveal a clear window with a nice black border to cover the inside edges of the computer case frame. To attach this window to the case, we're going to use this magnetic strip, which you can buy from eBay for about $5 a metre. Cut off a couple of small strips about 5cm long and stick them to the inside edges of the acrylic panel using some 3VHB tape, as the double-sided tape provided isn't very strong. There you have it, a magnetic full side panel window that is strong enough to stick but still easy enough to pry off with that lip at the rear. And that about does it. We have made these two boring generic computers into unique builds that are pleasing to the eye with clean colour matching cabling, unique power supply shrouds that hide cables whilst also being something worth looking at, and fixed a side panel window that hid half our build. These mods are just a few ideas of how to really make your build stand out by creating unique details or just to colour match everything. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, and if you really enjoyed it, please consider subscribing for more tutorials and other content in the future. If you have a suggestion, question or criticism, leave a comment, and thank you very much for watching.